Last night, I decided to take approximately 100 mg of 5-MeO diisopropyltryptamine, and there was nothing foxy about it. I wanted to do this for the same reason that Evel Knievel wanted to jump over the Grand Canyon on his motorcycle, because it was dangerous and it had never been done before. I thought I could handle it. I thought I had big balls, big enough to ride out even the roughest trip. I was wrong. It's now approximately 24 hours after I took the dose, and I feel like I just got back from 3 tours in Vietnam. If it weren't for the 12-pack of Old Milwaukee in my fridge, I would be in a mental institution now eating Haldol and cubes of green jello. There were 2 qualities to the experience that distinguished it from those of all other psychedelics. 1. The effects were not especially visual or auditory, even with 100 mg. 2. The experience was redundant. The trip had not 1 peak, but 2. It was as if I had divided the dose and taken the 2 halves several hours apart. The trip, such as it were, kicked in about 60 minutes after I ingested the drug. For the first 15 minutes, all the effects were a reflection of its aphrodisiac properties. I noticed the sex in everything. The shows on my television, the songs on my radio and CD player, myself. I decided to get some work done on the book I Am Writhing. What I've been looking for in a psychedelic is something creatively opening, something I can write with, so I put this foxy stuff to the test. Writing new text was out of the question, no ideas came to me. But examining the aesthetics of what I had already written seemed to come easily with this drug, so I did some proofreading. It allowed me to read the story as if I were someone else, a total stranger, and in this state, I could ask, does this read well? Is it entertaining? I think fiction writers could benefit from doses in the neighborhood of 15 mg. Then the trip really took off. Not visually, but emotionally. Over the course of the next 30 minutes I entered a realm of sheer terror. No visual hallucinations, little in the way of auditory distortions, just a slowly mounting feeling of terror. I started out feeling like lust, like libido, but that feeling was quickly swallowed up by the fear. Everything I saw, everything I heard, came to me as waves of fear. All the panic switches in my mind were suddenly flipped on. Color and sound were still unaffected, but these scare waves that poured through me acquired a kind of pattern, like some kind of metaphysical Morse code. A presence was speaking to me in waves of fear. The message was something like, I will let you live for one reason and one reason alone, so you can tell the others never to come here. I could tell I was in a very empty morphic field, but for the presence, and this lent further credence to the notion that I had taken a higher dose of this drug than any other human being ever has. I was in a world of shit. I raced to the fridge and pulled out a 12-box of Old Milwaukee and returned to the couch with it. I turned off the TV, because at this point all sensory input had taken the form of fear, so the less input there was, the better. I put the beer next to the phone, and weighed my options. Option 1. Dial 911 and summon the cops. They would take me to an institution and give me drugs that would shut down my dopamine receptors and mask the fear. And turn me into a quivering, drooling retard. In addition, the press would probably have a field day with this, and 5-MeO DiPT would probably become a Schedule I controlled substance. I didn't want to be responsible for ruining everybody's fun, so I went with option number 2, alcohol. It was the closest thing I had to an antipsychotic drug, so I killed 2 beers. The terror was still there and still building, so I killed 2 more. It took me 6 beers to get me drunk enough not to ignore the feeling of sheer panic within me. Over the next hour, the fear leveled off. I felt like I was at baseline again. I got up and walked around, made something to eat, and just generally went on with my life. But what I didn't know then was that this was just the eye of the storm. I kicked back on my couch, having eaten my supper, and leaned forward to pick up the bottle of melatonin, another tryptamine, from the coffee table. I hesitated, just before I wrapped my fingers around the bottle. Another wave of fear blew through me. No, I said. This isn't fair. I did the trip, I paid my dues, it's over, but it wasn't. For the next 2.5 hours, I re-experienced the effects of the drug, the panic, the fear, the conspicuous lack of visual enhancement. The terror mounted again, to the point that it became intolerable. I had 6 beers left, and I drank them all. This time, the ethanol wasn't enough to drown out the Ferrar. It was still there, and so was the presence, speaking to me in fear code. Where do you think you're going? It asked, I'm not done with you. For the next 2 hours, This creature proceeded to bounce me off every wall in the universe 4 hours later, well after sunrise. I was totally burned out, and a great deal wiser. I hope this experience will serve as an educational one. I thought I had big balls, but they weren't that big. Thank you for your time.